Recording in progress.
Recording is in progress. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar on streamlining success, identifying and implementing effective processes for church work. My name is Claire Bondi. I am the Director of Lay Ecclesial Ministry and Ongoing Formation for the Diocese. And our presenter today is Chrisandra Skipper, who is, what is your title, Chrisandra? I never remember.
Pastoral Services Coordinator.
Coordinator, got it. We are recording this webinar and it can be found with all of our other webinars at dol.ca/resources and webinar recordings. So that is all one word, no capitals, no dashes. Resources and webinar recordings. Everything that we do is available. There's a link available on that page, and you can find all of our webinars, all of the webinars that our administrative teams are doing. I think even Christine's are available there. There is a chat box, as you can see. Some people are already chatting and saying hello. And there's a Q&A box. If you have questions throughout the webinar, we ask you to shoot them in the Q&A box. It provides a really good spot where we can make sure that we're addressing all of the questions throughout. And I know Chrisandra will leave time at the end for questions. So I am going to turn it over to Chrisandra and I'm going to disappear and I'll see you when she's done.
All right, let's pray. We're going to use the Jubilee prayer as we are in this time of preparation for the Jubilee of 2025. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Father in heaven, may the faith you have given us in your Son, Jesus Christ, our brother, and the flame of charity enkindled in our hearts by the Holy Spirit, reawaken in us the blessed hope for the coming of your kingdom. May your grace transform us into tireless cultivators of the seeds of the gospel. May those seeds transform from within both humanity and the whole cosmos, in the sure expectation of a new heaven and a new earth, when, with the powers of evil vanquished, your glory will shine eternally. May the grace of the Jubilee reawaken in us, pilgrims of hope, a yearning for the treasures of heaven. May that same grace spread the joy and peace of our Redeemer throughout the earth. To you, our God, eternally blessed be glory and praise forever. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. 35,000. Can anyone take a guess at what that number represents for us today? I'll let you ponder it a moment. You can put it in the chat if you want, but if you don't want to put it in the chat, that's fine too. You can just think about it for a second. What do you think 35,000 represents today? I mean, it's a number, it's a statistic that I found on the internet, but it's about something. All right, answers coming in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We make approximately 35,000 decisions a day. A day. What to wear, what to eat, what to say, how to say it, what to look like, what to look at. We make approximately 35,000 decisions a day. And that's a lot, and that's tiring. It's one of the reasons why we crawl into bed every night exhausted. So that's a lot of mental capacity to make decisions every day. And there is a lot going on in the life of a parish, of a family of parishes. There are all kinds of elements of things that we are doing. And they all are different, but connected, right? They all connect us back to the church. We have sacraments and programs and ministries and liturgies and groups and staff and buildings and finances and all kinds of things. And so all of these things are requiring for us at work, and sometimes once we leave work still, to make decisions and thoughts about things throughout the day. Today, we're talking about streamlining success. And I want you to think for a moment about your own work life. Okay, so thinking about the 35,000 decisions you have to make a day and all of the things that come in parish, family of parish work life. How would you rate your effectiveness in work? How effective are you at the job that you are hired to do? Again, you don't have to put this one in the chat. Just think about it for a second. I also want you to rate your efficientness, whatever the word that is, that the root is efficient. How effective and how efficient are you at the job you were hired to do? And in life, a lot of the things that I talk about in these simple solutions cross over not just in our work, but they can be implemented in our life as well. So how effective, how efficient are you? Today, we're talking about streamlining success. We want to identify and implement effective processes for our church work. So let's talk a little bit about that. And what it's going to do is help us conquer decision fatigue. It's going to help us be more effective and be more efficient in our work and conquer and take on all of the things that are related to our work in parish life. So let's do some definitions. Get out the glossary and take notes on this. I'll also obviously send you some information about this after. What are we talking about today? So there are two words that kind of get used in kind of operations management. And sometimes they can get confusing. What do these even mean? So what is a system? We say we need to implement a system for this, or what's our system? A system is simply put, a collection of processes, technologies, people, and interfaces. And interfaces are just the way that those things work with each other, how they interface with each other. We use the word process in there. So let's look at the definition of process. And this is what we're going to focus a lot on today. A process is a set of steps that you have to take to finish something over and over again. So anything that you do more than once has a process, whether that's a documented and decided process or every time you're reinventing the process, could potentially be leading to some of that decision fatigue and overwhelm. So a process is the set of steps that you take to finish anything that you do over and over again. And a system is a collection of processes as well as technologies. So maybe in the process, we send an email, we send it through Outlook, or we send it through MailChimp, or we send it through Flocknote, the different technologies that we're using, the people who's doing what things, and how we're working together between the people and the technologies and things. Like I said, we're going to focus this today. There's another word that comes up when you look up kind of the operational things. And it's standard operating procedures. And this is not something that's like a regular church term. Honestly, not even something that I thought I was going to touch on today. But as I was doing so much research and preparing for today, this was something that kind of kept coming up over and over again. SOPs, standard operating procedures. And these are the instructions of how we go about doing something in an accepted way within your business or within your organization. So we do not necessarily have these. And I'm not sitting here on this webinar saying, okay, our next project is to develop standard operating procedures for everything that we do, because that's a lot. But I do want to introduce the concept of it today, because let's think about a place like Starbucks. I go into Starbucks and I'm expecting to get, if I get my grande half sweet vanilla latte, I would like my grande half sweet vanilla latte to come out the same every time. I'd like to know what to expect when I go to Starbucks. They're going to say, hey, thanks for choosing Starbucks today. What can I get for you? And then I'm going to tell them that I want a grande half sweet vanilla latte. And then they're going to say, oh, did you want that iced or hot? And I was like, obviously I want it hot. It's coffee. And so I drink iced coffee too, and then they're going to say, did you want to add a snack to it? Like, I know what to expect because they have standard operating procedures at Starbucks for how they interact with customers, for how they make their drinks. They make it in a process the same way every time. They pull the espresso and they put it in the pumps and it's made the same every time. Now, sometimes there'll be a slight variation on taste, but they have a set of systems. And this is not something, like I said, we do often in our church world, is have a standard operating procedure. But imagine what impact it could have on the people we serve if they come to our things knowing to expect the same thing over and over again. They're going to get the same prep email, or they're going to get the same, greeting when they come to different but like events. Okay, so let's say a family goes through First Communion prep with one student this year, and next year they have another young person and they're going they're getting confirmed the next year. And it's like, oh, we did the sacrament thing last year. We know what's up. And then they've done one process for first communion, first rec in one parish. And in the same parish the next year, they're doing a sacrament, a different sacrament, and they go through something completely different. The process is totally different. There's no standard operating procedures. And so they don't know what to expect. They're expecting what they got last year and they get something different. So, like I said, I'm not here to say this is what you have to do, but I'm just saying that these are some things that can help us in breaking down some of the barriers that are put up between us and the people we serve, and help to build trust with the people, especially the people who we are trying to build trust with as we lead them to discipleship. Okay, so that's a lot of the definitions, and then some why. Why are we doing this? Because we want to be effective and efficient. We want to reduce our own decision making and having to figure out how to do things, especially the things we do over and over again. But we also want to make it so that the people who we are serving come to expect things from us and that we can fulfill on those things, even if it's different people across the same family of parishes offering something. Okay, let's dive into processes. So a process is, hang on, let me read the same definition. A process is a set of steps you have to take to finish something over and over again. So a process should be documented. Okay, this is what I'm going to encourage you to do today, is to begin to document the processes that you encounter in your work. A process could be presented as a step-by-step list, as a flow chart, as a table. There's a lot of ways, as long as it's documented. And I am the kind of person who loves a beautifully crafted thing, but these things do not necessarily have to be beautiful. They have to be usable. Okay, so don't worry so much about the perfect template to get it. They need to be usable. So getting it on a piece of paper in Times New Roman 12-point font is going to be good. All right. But we want to document it because we want this to live beyond us. And this is something that I've encountered in different families of parishes and talking with people, priests, lay ecclesial ministers, secretaries, business managers, deacons, that we all have a specific role in our family of parishes, whether that's, to lead sacrament or to do liturgy or to run a Bible study program or whatever that thing is, or the things, usually it's more than one, doing funerals and doing weddings, and that we have responsibility. We have a portfolio, let's say. And so we're really concentrated on doing our own portfolio, making sure that our work is getting done. But many of these things that we do, we're serving a group of people together as a team, and processes, especially documented processes, can help spread a similar message, standard operating procedures, across the family of parishes, so that, again, it's not person dependent. If someone gets sick and can't come in for the next couple of weeks and they had a big thing on their plate, that there's documented process. Okay, they're here, and now this is what needs to get done before the end of Vacation Bible School prep, or whatever those things are. So we want documented processes that are not role dependent. We want them to be dependent, or we want them to be role dependent, not people dependent. So it's not all living in someone's brain, or it's all dependent on a specific skill or talent that one person has. This is something that we can use to spread out the information. We want to have it documented. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example. Okay, this is just an example. It's not comprehensive. There are probably pieces that I'm missing, but I wanted to put something in front of you. A process is a process for baptism. Okay, so we receive an inquiry. Someone calls, hey, I just had a baby. I would like to get them baptized. And we say, oh, congratulations. We're so happy you chose the Catholic Church and baptism for your child. We have this registration form. Have you done it yet? No? Okay, I'll send you the link right now. Do you have an email address? Sure. Okay. So step one is receive an inquiry. From there, we're going to have someone complete a registration form. They're going to complete it, and then we're going to send them maybe an information package through email. That's going to have things like when prep is, and what the baby should wear, and what time they should get there, things they need to know to prepare. So we're going to send them an email. Yep, we got your thing. Here's your date. Here's what you need to know. Then we're going to invite them to the preparation meeting. We're going to have that preparation meeting. From there, someone's going to prepare a certificate and all the candle and the little white garment. Everything's going to be prepared. Someone's going to put a sticky note on the priest's book so that they know the names of the children who are coming for baptism that day. Okay, so someone's doing all of those things, and I put prepare certificate, but maybe I added some of those other prep things in there. Then we're going to celebrate the liturgy. Hooray, beautiful. Welcome to the church, baby. And from there, we need to confirm that yes, to the office, this person had their sacrament, and maybe we have a process for if that person didn't show up for some reason or another, who's contacting. We need to tell someone at the office, yes, they had their sacrament, or no, they did not show up. And then someone needs to document it, put it in a baptismal register in the DDMS system. And then there we go, that baptism is done. Okay, so that's a process for baptism. Again, I might be missing steps. Maybe you do something differently. I was trying to keep this one simple. This process flow chart model, process mapping, comes from like corporate America, corporate people in operations management and systems management. And so they have like ways to map these out. So these shapes all mean something. The ovals are the start and the stop, not like parallelogram thing is an action that the other person's taking. There's also sometimes a diamond if there's a decision that needs to be made, like a yes or a no, or you need to make this decision more before you can move forward. So that's why I did put it this way. But like I said, you do not need to be fancy when you're writing these things out. What made me come to this point, I use processes in my own work. For example, when I was working on Good News Notes every month, I was preparing a newsletter that's on a slight hiatus. It's coming back, but it's on a slight hiatus, but that's okay. When I was working on it monthly, I did the same thing every month. I always created a header image, and we had Article 1 and we had Article 2, and then we had a calendar of all the important dates, like saint days and stuff. So I needed to do that. I put together a list of links to other things that are happening on the internet. So every month I was doing the same thing, and I had a list of what needed to be done. Article 1, Article 2, calendar, links, graphics, proofread, send, put it on the website. There was like a system of things, a process that every month I went through the same thing, and I would checklist out all of those things that I was doing for them every month. And so I was using this in my work, although I hadn't seen it like this. I did go to a family of parishes a few months ago, where the pastor came to the meeting with, and you probably aren't going to be able to see this, but it's just this package of systems for their different, mostly sacramental preparation systems. And it outlined processes in this way. And I'd never seen church work done in this like kind of operational way before. And I was like, oh, this could help us so much in these families of parishes. Because in single parishes long ago, not that long ago, but it wasn't such an operation to do these things. Maybe we were having 30 people go through confirmation a year, and it was a smaller operation. On the scale of a family of parishes, they're bigger operations. And so we need to start using some of the tools to help us work through things in this operational way. So I'm going to show you next process map for confirmation. This is right from that family of parishes. And I did tell him I was going to steal this and share it, but I didn't get like express permission to share who it was. So I'm just going to put it out there, and I'll thank him and credit him once I have permission to do that. Okay, so confirmation, again, this might not be how you work, maybe, but this is how their system or process was outlined. They have confirmation. So confirmation registration, someone registers and it goes right into a confirmation spreadsheet where all the information is held. People are invited to a family meeting. So the whole family comes to a meeting. And from there, the adults are invited. This like blue thing had a legend that was like, information bulletin. You are invited to Alpha for Adults. So if your child is going through confirmation and you want to learn more about the faith, Alpha for Adults is coming. The kids go through Alpha for Youth, and then they do a net retreat. At the same time that's happening, they also have to choose what mass they're getting confirmed at. Gowns need to be ordered, certificates need to be created, and then we get to confirmation, celebrate the liturgy. Hooray! Happy confirmation. Attendance list is sent to the office where we confirm registration. And then register. Oh, sorry. So then we're actually registering the confirmation. So this is like DDMS or like the sacramental registration. And then it has to get registered into a baptismal registration so that they know that wherever your baptismal certificate's held, it's yes, this person's been confirmed or not. So if it's from our family of parishes, then we include it in the baptism register. If it's not, then it has to go to a letter has to go to the parish. So this is the process for confirmation. I use these two because mostly I lifted them off of this parish as examples, because it's something we all understand, no matter what role you're in. We all understand. There's ways to do this for our communications and for funerals and for weekend liturgies and liturgical ministers and all kinds of things where we can use these processes to streamline what's happening. Okay, so let's move on to the how. Okay, Cassandra, that's lovely. That sounds so cool. I would love to get some processes outlined and documented so that I have an understanding of my own work and I'm able to share it with the people around me. Because almost everything that we do in the crazy, like large, bubble of the things that happen in a family of parishes, none of these things do we do on our own, right? Nothing here is touched by just one person. Multiple people, even if you're working in Northern Huron Perth Catholic family of parishes with just Father Ross, the only priest there. There's no ecclesial ministers, but even him alone is not touching these things by himself. There are other people who are working with him, disciples and volunteers and secretary and all kinds of PPC or financial, whatever, lots of people. So we don't do these things alone. So we need to work together on these things as well. So there's benefit to mapping these out for yourself, but there's also an importance in sharing this with everyone who touches that process. Okay, so what are we going to do here? The first step is to just map the current state of things. So to sit down and say, currently right now for funerals, this is what we do. Someone calls, someone has died. We have to plan the funeral. We have to find a priest. We have to, they have to meet with plan the liturgy, like all the steps. So we're going to map it out how we currently do it, establish the steps. Then we're going to optimize the steps. Then we're going to document the new process, and then we're going to execute the process. Okay, we're going to do it. Not like kill it, but like do it. But how? How are we going to get started? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to invite all the people who do the work. Let's say you want to start with one system first. Okay, so, or one process first. So find something, maybe the next big thing. Maybe it's a sacrament in the fall, maybe it's a youth group in the fall, maybe it's Alpha, whatever the thing is. Invite all the people who do the work around a table. Be messy. Use a whiteboard. This doesn't have to be like a curated thing on the computer yet. You want it to be messy. You want to be able to move it around and not be afraid to change things. So use chart paper and sticky notes or a whiteboard and put up there steps that are currently happening. We do this first, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this, and we end here. Oh wait, don't do actually the steps yet. Be messy, but establish the scope before you actually start the steps. What is the start of the process that we're mapping and what is the end? Okay, because we could keep, well, before they come, then they have to have a baby. Well, that's not part of our process. Okay, our process starts for baptism when the person calls us and asks us for baptism. When does the process end? Well, we'd love to do a follow-up a year after. Okay, but is that part of our baptism process or is that part of a follow-up evangelization process? We're going to end as soon as it's entered into DDMS in the baptismal register. That's when we're ending our process. So establish what the start and end is. That's the scope. Then you're going to map the as is. You're going to name the steps. You're looking for, most processes are going to have about 4 to 9 steps, 4 to 9. And you're going to name them in this model, verb, noun. So let's go back for a second. Receive inquiry, complete registration form, email information package, facilitate preparation meeting. These are all verbs and then nouns. What's the action and what are we doing it to? So naming the steps, verb, noun. And we're going to, at this point, ignore exceptions. Oh, we can be like, oh, but what if they do this? Or we always have people who don't do this, or we're looking at the broad scope of things. And for now, we're establishing a process that is going to fit the majority, and we're going to ignore exceptions at this point. And finally, we're going to collect some examples of documents. So let's say, excuse me, in this process, we always send an email. We're going to get a copy of the email template. We always send out a letter home every, to confirmation candidates. We send a letter home to recruit altar servers. We always send a letter in June to people to come. I don't know. So get examples of maybe you don't use the same template every time, but get an example of the last time you sent it. Because once we have our as is, the current state of things, then we're going to begin to identify the issues and fix them. Okay, so now we've got our as is, our messy wall template. We've mapped where we currently are for the broadest group, not including exceptions. We're going to identify issues in the current process. So here are some questions to ask yourself. Are there internal challenges? Right? Where are we getting funneled? Where are we losing our brains? Because so much work has to happen in a short amount of time, or what are pieces that get missed all the time? Those kinds of things. What are our internal challenges that we experience on our end? And then also consider, are the participants or parishioners or who the people we're serving in a traditional system like this? Often this person is a customer, the experiencer, the participant. We don't have customers in the church. Sometimes they think we do, and that consumer mentality, but we don't. We have parishioners, disciples. Are they experiencing challenges, and how can we fix those? Then we're going to streamline and correct the problems. Find ways in the process that we can fix something that, okay, we don't have enough time to do this. That means we need to move either the start of when we can do this earlier or the end later, or we need to add more people, or we need to change how we do it. So identifying how we're going to fix the problems, and then document it so it's understandable. Not document so it's beautiful, not document so that we can put it on a beautiful website. We're going to document it so it's understandable and usable. We're going to delegate the tasks, not to necessarily people, but to their roles. Okay, because one of the things that these processes are going to be extremely helpful for is we hope that you work where you work forever, until Jesus comes again. But in the case that maybe you move on to another job, or there's some reason why there's change or turnover and there's a new person who comes in, they can begin somewhere. This is the process we currently use. This person may identify new challenges, but here's what we already use. We want to delegate all things to roles, not people. I mean, there's a person behind every role, right? We know that. And we know that each person has their own gifts and charisms that we want to use. But for the sake of processes, we want to make sure that it's delegated to a role. And finally, we're going to execute this. We actually have to do it. There is no sense in sitting around. I mean, this is what I would love to do all day, is just plan. I would love to come help you work through your processes. But eventually we just have to do them and work through them, and not rethink and reimagine things once we made the decision. Once we make these decisions, one of the things we want to do is leave behind maybe 1,000 more decisions off of our 35,000 for the day, and just do what we already planned. We decided, we talked about this, we determined the best way forward, and we're gonna carry out the plan, the process as we planned it, and not worry about decisions and decision fatigue for these things. Okay, so that's a bit about processes, about what they are, about how to map them and how to get them documented. Now for that, oops. So I just want to come back to confirmation for a second here. So we can see, right, again, this is maybe the current, maybe this is the revised, right, the most effective that we want. This is how we want things to happen. They all have steps. This here, though, we don't have any delegation. We don't have any more detail. So this is where we're going to start to go into systems. The process map is really the steps. We're going to go into systems. This is where we add people and the technologies we use and how we're going to work it all together. This is the system. So we're going to have a system for baptism. And ideally, what would happen is the system for all of your sacraments of initiation would be the same, that you're using the same kind of templates and things across all of these, so that one, you are doing not 100 different ways to do things. So you don't have to decide, how do we do it for this and how do we do it for that? That all of your things relatively, the like things are done the same way. But that the people who you are serving are also expecting and experiencing the same thing. They know what to expect. Maybe if they had baptism last year and they're doing a first communion this year, that they know what to expect when it comes to sacraments at your family parishes, or funerals, or receiving information, or how to book a room. There are so many ways that this can be used. And again, I'm using sacraments because I feel like it's the thing that most people can grab onto and understand. But there are a lot of areas that we can do this. So this is just one way that you could write out a system to note take. And these are really small notes. You could have larger notes. You could have links to the documents and the templates and things that you use here. So these are all the same steps as the baptism map that I showed you. But here we're delegating to the person who's going to do the thing. Any more action that like isn't specified in this step is in the action item. The timeline. When is this expected to be done? We need to send them if someone completes a registration form for baptism or for anything, we want to send them within 5 business days. Yes, we received it, and here's what to expect going forward. And it's an email template that everyone receives within 5 business days. We can actually start to automate those things. And that's a different webinar of how to automate in processes like that using our technologies. Here we also have, so if we go to the information package that we're going to send, what is included? We always include a date of the next prep, what to expect or plan for on the day of the baptism. We'll save 2 pews for you, and you should arrive 25 minutes early, and your baby can wear white or they cannot, like those kinds of things, so that maybe you have baptism prep 2 weeks before the baptism, but this is 5 weeks, and they get an information package. So they know what to expect as early as possible. And then we go through the rest, facilitate the meeting, 2 weeks, so these things are all just examples, but this is to show you now, once we have a process, we can begin to expand on it, maybe find in here that there's things missing, right? We have just prepare certificate, but we don't have who puts the Post-it note on the prayer books that we know what the baby's name is. We don't have like who's getting candles or what, how those kinds of things. So all of the details should be in here, so that if tomorrow the person who's supposed to run baptisms cannot be there, that there's someone who can pick it up and go, oh, I know how we do this, or I can grab the booklet or whatever. Keep it simple, but keep it documented. I'm going way too fast through this. I didn't even have an energy drink today. Okay, customer roadmap. So I know they're not customers. But when we're looking at operations, this is another term that will come up often. And so we look at those like flow charts and things. We can think about this. These flow charts, the process flow charts that I showed you, are the process kind of on our end, right? On the church end. It includes all kinds of details, right? The people that we are serving do not necessarily care when we're preparing the certificate. We need to know that it's happening and how we're going to do that. But for the customer, or for the person we're serving, we could also look at it, what did they experience? Okay, so for a funeral, they call, and are they experiencing similar processes across a family of parishes? So if they, whatever the thing is, funeral, booking a room, maybe the Knights of Columbus are doing at an event where they are doing something across the whole family of parishes. Is booking a room the same process in every place? I call the place and then they say yes or no. That's the process. Or I call the place and then they have to check with someone, and then we, whatever the process is to book a room for the Knights of Columbus, are they experiencing the similar process throughout the family of parishes? That's a question you can ask to help identify how are the people we're serving or the people we're interacting with outside of our own team experiencing our processes. Another question to ask is, are they experiencing similar processes for like activities? So I've already talked about this, but sacraments. Are the family who had, maybe a family who has a child in grade 2 and a child in grade 8 in the same year, and they're literally doing sacraments in the same family of parishes in the same year, and they're experiencing wildly different experiences and processes, it can get really frustrating. So how are they experiencing similar processes across the family of parishes and across like activities? Yeah, I think that also will help. If I think about a family of parishes, someone interacting, if you do a Bible study or a alpha, and it moves from parish to parish, or you do some sort of adult faith formation, that sometimes something happens at parish A, and then the next month it's at parish B, but making sure that we're experiencing similar things so that there's a comfort and an expectation of what people are going to get when they go from one place to the other. Our processes can help build the bridge across our parishes in a family of parishes by people being able to experience similar things. Another example that I can think of is like our liturgical ministers treated the same way at all the parishes in your family of parishes. Is there a process for what to do if you're sick, or how the schedules come out, or those kinds of things? One for the priests and for the people who are sacristans and those kinds of people who are experiencing it on the team end, but on the people, on the liturgical ministers or the volunteers in other capacities, are they knowing what to expect across the board? Are those similar? Are our disciples prepared effectively and efficiently and effectively for leadership? So again, this comes, are we the people who are leading within our family of parishes, or volunteering, are they being prepared and given processes and steps to follow so that they're being built to be leaders? Giving them, here's the toolkit for how to do this. Here's the process for how we do it. Now you can take it and go with it. This can help us call people forward to leadership by saying, we've prepared, this is how we do it. And now you can put your own little spin on it, but it needs to follow this process. This is what we do. And always asking, are our processes mission oriented? Are we doing the things for the sake of ease or comfort for ourselves? Sometimes we have to make sure they're feasible and that we're not burning ourselves out, but are we considering what the mission is requiring of us? And are we able to do this in a more mission oriented mindset? So those are questions to ask. If you're looking at what a customer, what a parishioner, a disciple, a participant is experiencing when they come and do things with us, that they're experiencing things because we have similar processes across the board, and we've documented and we've talked about them. It's really important in this to be doing it with the people who are doing the work. So again, what often happens is a person has a portfolio and owns something, by owns it like it's theirs, but there are other people who touch it. And so I could come up with the system and process for Good News Notes, but there were other people who helped write for that or participated in that. Am I bringing everyone to the table to make sure that their impact is, or their opinions are impacting the process and helping to shape the process of how we do things? Okay, this might be the speediest one so far, but we're almost ready for questions. So get your Q&As out. Remember, keep it simple, do it together, and make it actionable. None of this is going to be worth anything if it's too complicated, if you're doing it all by yourself, or if it's not going to be able to be put into practice, then it's useless. All right, Claire, what do you got for questions?
I just realized I wasn't muted.
Oh, hope you weren't singing or anything.
I was like eating, so that's probably not a good thing, but I didn't say anything bad, but all right. So if you have questions, pop them in the chat. But one of the things that I thought about when you were talking about SOPs, the standard operating procedures, first of all, your dad would be thrilled that you use that phrase. But also that, like, this is why we can do mass anywhere in the world, is because essentially mass is a series of standard operating procedures, right? And if you go to if you go to a different diocese, and you know, the big question is, are they standing or sitting after communion? That's, you know, and so you just don't sit in the front pew, wait until somebody you know, models that for you. But it also provides a sense of belonging and comfort for people. And I think one of the things that we're always trying to do, one of the things that we're so keenly aware of, is that people need to feel like they belong, in order to sort of, you know, want to come back. When they feel like they belong, when they feel like they can anticipate what's going to happen. I talk about this all the time, but you know, letting your baptism family know, stay standing after communion, because they don't feel awkward when they look behind them and everyone else is standing up and they're sitting down. So I also wanted to give you talked about, you know, other people who touch things. I had a situation once where I was a sacristan. This was it was sometime sort of during COVID, I think. And there was a baptism at Mass, and it was a visiting priest. And there was a note about the baptism, and there was, I can't even remember. The candle was there, but there was no garment, the white garment, whatever they used in the parish at the time. And we looked everywhere. Like we thought we looked everywhere. And it got to the point where I said to the visiting priest, you're gonna have to like wing this, because there's no garment. I have nothing to give you. Finally, someone remembered that in there, like behind where the actual baptismal font is, there's a cupboard there that I knew nothing about, because this was, you know, not familiar to me, and found them. But it just goes to this. I think sometimes we become really accustomed to doing something, or we understand it, and we forget that there are pieces that we need to make sure that they're really clear, which leads me to the piece that you talked about with understandable. I always think it's a good idea to let someone else who is not connected to the thing read through your process, because it's like proofreading my own stuff. I know what it's supposed to say, so that's what it says to me, but then someone else reads it and says that isn't at all what it says, or there's a typo that you totally missed, but the word makes sense in your brain. So the understandable part, I think, is really having another set of eyes look at it is always really helpful, to make sure that it's understandable to not just you, and you know, that there's clarity, like even in the various churches, where will you find the baptismal garment? Where will you find in all of these places? So those are the thoughts that went through my head as you were talking and sharing. And again, I just think the more standardized, one of the things that has crossed my mind recently is that as we start to really find ourselves comfortable as a family of parishes, or still wrestle through this reality of being a family of parishes, is it's not an expectation that when you're in a family of parishes that you're gonna automatically go to any or all of the churches connected with the family. But there should be a standard among those parishes where I can go to any one of them and absolutely know what's going to happen, based on the idiosyncrasies of my family of parishes. So I think there's a, you know, some of those things that we have to start standardizing among all of the parishes in a family. So I appreciate that. I also appreciated the process to creating a process, which I think is really helpful. Good. All right.
Yeah, one of the questions I think too is to just everything that we do, we have a process for how we do it. We probably don't have it documented, and we don't have understanding across the board of how it's done. And so often it's just we haven't consciously thought about, this is the system we're going to set up for confirmation, that it becomes a system because that's how it is done. but to intentionally sit down and create something makes it intentional. It allows you to ask the questions about, what are our internal challenges here? What are the people experiencing? What is it like to come and be part of this? And to intentionally decide little things, right? Where are we going to put the food? And the decisions that seem like might not take much time, but when we sit down and talk about it like this, we can be intentional about those little decisions and the impact that they're having as we build the systems for them.
I also think sometimes what happens is, particularly if it's something we're doing, we do so regularly that we are comfortable with it, that understanding that we can sort of forget things. I remember when I used to do, like, I hate to even say this, but when I was in the parish, I used to do like dances, like, you remember those days? And and because it was so rote for me, I started to have to write it down, because there would be pieces I would miss, because I just, in my head, I thought, oh, I know how to do this, that I need to go back and sort of fine tune. Even for this process, this is my notes of how we start a webinar now. Aren't they pretty? They have stickers on them because they were in my pocket one day for my grandsons. But so that there's a standard pattern as we're doing webinars to make sure that we're hitting all the marks. So there was a question here. Yeah, and when there's pastoral changes, I think that is one of the things that is unique to us as a church. I mean, every industry has turnover, but what's very unique to us as a church is that we know that's coming. We know that 6 years, 12 years, whatever it's going to be, there will be pastoral changes. And, new pastors are going to make changes in how they do things, but having an understanding when they come in of this is what this family of parishes is accustomed to, helps them transition well into that family of parishes. And then as they want to make changes, they can start to, but at least you know what you're making changes from, as opposed to starting fresh. So it is a good point.
I would say one more point to just, if you don't have any documented processes or systems in your family of parishes, which maybe you have some, but I'm guessing that this is not something that we usually do in the church. Like, you do not have to do processes, like, you don't have to do them all right now, right? Even by this time next year, you're not going to have a handbook of every process that happens. But pick one or two things that this year you're intentionally making sure that you've systemized or made a process for, documented, talked about those. So maybe choose one or two things this year that your team is going to look at. And then next year you can build on that. But don't try to do, oh, we're going to just do it all, because that's not going to work. And it's not going to be effective and efficient in how you do all the rest of the things you're doing.
Right. Yeah. The other thing you talked about, I think that's really important, because like when we talk about sacramental processes, and let's look specifically at the childhood sacraments, the sacraments that are relative to or typical in childhood. I think it's valuable for parents to know what to expect. And you may have different people doing baptism versus doing first communion, confirmation, or reconciliation, and maybe someone else doing confirmation. So understanding that we don't work in silos. As you said, we all have our role description, but we are part of a team, and people need to see us as that. And when we're not doing things that are somewhat standardized, it doesn't appear like the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And all that does is frustrate people. And every time we put frustration in front of someone who is unchurched, we sever their relationship from the church even further. And our goal is always to draw people in, right? To make them feel comfortable, to make them feel welcome, to make them feel like they belong here. And the more they can anticipate what's going to happen, the more they're going to feel like they belong. So.
And just to turn the mirror on ourselves, like we as a diocesan
Uh-huh.
staff know that this is something that we intentionally talk about standardizing how our webinars look and how we can receive payments for different events. Like these are things that on our end, we are conscious of, and we are working, slowly but surely at making it so that you, as people who work in parishes and families of parishes, have an understanding that when you do a diocesan thing, these are our standard operating procedures, and that you know what to expect, whether it's Claire doing an event or me doing an event or Christine or Joe or whatever that is. So just to open the curtain a little bit behind the scenes for what we're working on.
True. Very good. All right. If there are no other questions, we will sign off. Stay tuned for what's coming in 2024-25 in terms of our simple solutions. The goal of these webinars is to help make your work life easier. So if you have actually somebody literally last night at 10 o'clock sent me a suggestion for a webinar, so something we'll discuss. But if you have things that you would like to see as part of this series, by all means, reach out, let us know. And again, you can find all of our webinars at dol.ca/resources and webinar recordings. So
I'm
there
gonna
you
add
go.
one more thing now. Sorry, one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
Just like summer's a great time if you've missed some of these simple solution webinars to go back and watch them, or any of the webinars that we have, as you're cleaning out your desk or you're sitting around, because there's not, like, I know some people, summer's like crazy busy in the church, you have vacation Bible school and all these things, but for some of us, it's not. But also if you're looking at it's a good time for a lot of people to go through, make a project list, plan some things, go through some of the strategies that we've talked about. And if you need a refresher, you need to just talk something out. I have a lot of availability over the summer. So if you want a webinar and just say, hey, help me figure out how to put my stuff into a project system, or reach out.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great summer.
Bye.
Stay cool. Bye-bye.